any games, so you're just stuck with me talking for the next 15 or 20 minutes. But I just want to say a massive thank you to Harbinder for inviting me to come and speak with you all today. And I hope really that over the next 20 minutes or so, I just want to give you a bit of an insight into my journey here at Warwick. And I said to Harbinder, what kind of topic would you like me to present on? And I think he was quite keen that I reflect over the past 21 years. So I've been at Warwick since 2004. It was my first job after my master's degree. So I started as a research assistant, and then I've obviously climbed the academic ladder, as they say, and got my professorship just after COVID. So I think along the way it's definitely been a challenging journey in many ways. It's also been a very rewarding journey. And hopefully, like I said, you just get a bit of an insight into some of that as we go through the presentation. So I thought, first of all, I mean, this is not the normal types of presentations that I do. So obviously in academia, we're like, this is our research, this is what we've done. So it's really nice to actually just broaden that a bit and just talk a little bit about the journey. So I started to think about first, what is my welcome or introduction slide going to be? And I thought, well, let me sit down and reflect over the past couple of decades and what comes into my mind in terms of words which I associate with my job as an academic. And these are the kind of words that came up. I mean, I don't really understand why some of them were in bold, but I mean, they've just formulated that way. I wouldn't put a certain weighting on each. I just think they just all genuinely have a part to play. So obviously research, professorship, clinical trials, teaching, NHS, but what I was quite sort of interested about or intrigued was there were other words like public engagement, innovation, policy change, so working with government to actually have impact with the research that we do. And I think that to me was a really, I guess, a nice moment to reflect and think about my purpose as an academic. And why is it that we do what we do? And I think especially in terms of a lot of the research that I do in sort of the clinical trials, I mean, it's great doing the actual clinical trial, but the real reward comes when we actually start to make a difference. So I think hopefully as we go through the next few slides, I just want you to bear in mind some of those words that have come out in my thought bubble. So again, with some of these talks, it's really nice to start off with, what kind of quote or what kind of quote would inspire me, or a quote that I could perhaps relate to. And this quote by Bibi Banjiji, I think really sat with me because I'm just going to read it out. I mean, it's a bit small on here. But when you serve with humility, you build the future, not just for yourself, but for generations. And I think with this particular sort of work, what really resonated with me is that humility, because as an academic, I think it's really important to always think, what are your limitations? Who are the people that you have to collaborate with? Who are the teams around you? It's not I'm working on this. I constantly want to learn. I mean, I've learned so much today from the presentations that I've heard, pushing those boundaries. So having that humility always, doesn't matter how much you climb that academic ladder, it's always remaining grounded and being grateful really for having the opportunities to be able to collaborate and do that research. But also not only building the future for the South, but for the next generation. And I think that's really something that I want to, now having reached chair at the university, is to help those early career researchers, really what will inspire them to actually carry on and go down the academic route. As we all know, it's not the easiest route. There are a lot of challenges, there are a lot of barriers, there are a lot of setbacks, there's a lot of rejections along the way, but there's also so much reward, and it can be done. As I was going up the academic ladder, I didn't have many female Sikh Asian professor role models. So I think it's really important that for us and for all of us in this room that we have that visibility, especially for the sort of early career researchers. So again, I was just reflecting, what's kind of really driven me to take on this career. And in terms of my cultural and personal foundations, like my my mum and dad. My mum sat in the audience over there filming me. Hi, Mum. So they came over in the 1960s, and you know, I again have been very fortunate, and I'm grateful that my parents took me back to India a lot of times. And so by going back, I've really had the opportunity to keep those connections with family back there. But I think more importantly, what I found when I was reflecting on this is just recognizing how much sacrifice and selflessness that my parents had, not in terms of, in terms of what they sacrificed for building a family back home whilst supporting us as children. So I'm one of 4, I have 3 older brothers. And we didn't, as we were younger, go on these, you know, magnificent holidays. You know, it was very much, Dad was working in a foundry, Mum was working, and a lot of the money that was being generated was to support our family here, but was also being sent back home as well. And that to me showed determination and motivation. And it's things like that that really stick with you as values. And it's only because now I'm in a position that I can reflect back, I can join those dots. Whilst I was going through my career, I don't think I ever did join those dots of actually what's driven me. Where have I got this drive from? Why do I want to give back? You know, where does this leadership and resilience come from? And I think it is literally from seeing my parents and do everything they did for family here and back home. And so, Mum, I really want to say thank you, you know, for getting us back over there. Because honestly, and even now when I speak to the younger generations, and I don't want to paint everyone in the same brush, but, you know, I'm like, it's important. Find out, speak to the elders. If you have the opportunity to go India, go. You know, don't forget where our roots are from. And the courage is the other thing as well. Because obviously, you know, in order for us to break those challenges and go through them, we have to have a sense of courage. And again, I think sometimes that's not the easiest thing to do, but look in this room, we've got so much support around us, so there's always people that will have our, you know, have our backs and encourage us. So where do I work? So, as I said, I've been at the university for 21 years, and the majority of that time has been in the medical school. And I currently work in the Warwick Clinical Trials Unit. So I'm a professor of health psychology, and I'm also a registered psychologist. So I split my time as a clinician and as an academic. And in the CTU, we've got various sort of themes. I'm in the pain, rehabilitation and surgery theme. So we do a lot of clinical trials around physical health, long-term conditions, and the surgical side, really exciting trials happening with robotic surgery at the moment. And it's a really great place because there's just a lot of collaboration there, lots of exciting sort of research to do. So I found myself in clinical trials, and I thought, you know, this is where I can really hopefully start to make a difference in terms of patient health. So my kind of bread and butter, and what I particularly focus on, is behaviour change. So as a health psychologist, it's all about trying to help people engage in positive health behaviours. So, for example, we all know exercise is good for us. We all know eating so many fruit and vegetables, I don't know what it is now, 10 fruits a day. But how many of us actually do that? So if I say the standard is we have to have a minimum of 6 fruits a day, and we all know it's good for our health, put your hand up if you can honestly say that every day you will meet these health standards. 1 over there, brilliant. 2, that's good. But it just goes to show, doesn't it, that in the majority of this room, the hands didn't go up. So what we have to understand is what facilitators help those people engage in those health behaviours, and actually what are the challenges? So why do people not engage in them? So sometimes, you know, students say, well, it's a bit common sense. Well, if it was common sense, we'd all be doing this. But the fact is, we don't. So when we talk about physical health and we try to get people to engage in whatever good rehabilitation, medication regime, whatever that is, the fact is we know that there are other areas we need to focus on. And that could be due to mental health, the thought processes, emotions we have. It could be due to external barriers. It could be due to internal barriers as well. So the behaviour change is the key of the kind of work that I do. The biopsychosocial model was produced by Engel in 1977. So he actually challenged the traditional biomedical model of health and illness. So we focus on the body, we focus on the physical symptoms. If we are ill, we have to medicate, we have to find out what the problem is, let's cure the physical problem. But actually, if we do that, we are separating the mind and the body. But they are one, we are a whole entity. So the biopsychosocial model, which is very much what is used today in the NHS, when you might go to an appointment, you might see a physio, you might see a clinician. It's a multidisciplinary approach to health and illness, because we know that what happens here, how we think, our feelings, our emotions, our mood, our anxiety, our worry, also affects our physical health. And we all are part of systems, the social, our ethnicity, our gender, our race, our peer group, all of that also affects our health. So if we focus just on one and not the other, we are not going to be optimizing health. So just a very quick overview of the kind of models that we use for behavior change. So just 3 things if you want to take away from that model is what can actually influence whether someone engages in a good behavior change or not. Their capability. Do they understand? Are they able to process information and make those decisions? Motivation. What's motivating someone? Is it an automatic motivation because due to habits? Are they able to reflect on their health beliefs? And their opportunity. Do people have the access to services? Do people have access to resources? Are they able to attend appointments? You know, if it's to do with some sort of rehabilitation program. All these things we know influence someone's behaviour. So in the healthcare setting, when we design our clinical trials, and when I'm inputting as a health psychologist, this is what I tend to lead on. What can we do to create and actually help people engage in positive health behaviour changes? So that's my kind of umbrella about behaviour change, but where I focus my career on is physical health, and in particular chronic pain management. So these are people that have long-term pain, and we define long-term pain as pain that lasts 3 months or more, or expected longer than expected normal duration of recovery. So with pain and pain management, and you can see here the sort of diagram there, we have the physical symptom of pain, but just refer back to that biopsychosocial model. When someone is in pain every single day, whether it's back pain, knee pain, that is going to have an effect on what's going on here. They're going to start perhaps feeling low in mood, they may start feeling stressed, anxious, might start withdrawing from certain events. They may then start to lose that social circle that people have, you know, social network. I can't meet up with my friends because I'm in so much pain. They're not going to understand. It's normally classed as the invisible condition because you can't physically see pain. And over time, people can really downward spiral, and the pain can consume their identity. So when I do pain management, it's very much about that biopsychosocial approach and understanding how we can help people achieve a good quality of life despite the pain that they have. And that might be through understanding all those complexities that someone may have. So currently in the country, we're talking about, pain in itself is the leading cause of disability globally. And back pain is one of the leading causes of pain for that disability. So it is a huge, huge deal. In the UK, I think it's around 8 million people have moderate to severe pain. So, a lot of people are suffering with pain every single day. So when we think about long-term pain, you can think of it as an iceberg. So on top of this iceberg, you've got the pain. Yeah? So when people say, oh, God, I've got my back's killing today, I've got really bad knee pain, headaches, whatever it may be, that's the physical pain. And that's what normally we get to, at normal level when you're talking to your peers or family members or friends. But all of that lives underneath that iceberg. So this is what people are having to live with. Sleep problems, loss of fitness, money worries because they're not able to work anymore, feeling low, medication side effects, all that stuff is under the iceberg. So actually, by researching pain and pain management, that's what we're tapping into. The byproduct of that is the physical pain. Because long-term pain, unfortunately, people are going to have to live with that pain. But it's how we can achieve that quality of life despite the pain that they have. So next time, you know, someone's like, or even with yourselves, if you know anyone or you may have pain yourself, think about that. You know, it goes beyond the physical pain. All that other stuff is sometimes not spoken about, especially in our community. I mean, that's a whole other story. But, you know, it can be easily dismissed, but there's a lot going on there. So, going back to my journey as an academic, one of the things, I think a turning point in my career was when so the government commissioned a call, the National Institute of Health. And as we know, for the academics in the room and the non-academics, basically, when a government commissions a call, other universities, other academics, you get a team together, you put a proposal together, and you bid for your research. They will then go through a peer review process, and they pick a research project to be funded. So the government commissioned a call on opioid use. So these are strong painkillers, and I'll tell you why that was commissioned in the next few slides. But this was back in 2013, and I was an assistant professor then. And I remember my mentor, line manager, coming up to me saying, Harbinder, you're in pain management, come on, what do you think about going for this grant? And I was like, me? As a chief investigator for a massive study. I mean, the largest amount of money I'd got was £20,000 for a charity, from a charity called Estonia, looking at rehabilitation there. And so I was really happy with £20,000, thinking this is great. And then I thought, hold on a minute. So this is where that reflection comes in. So something, that inner core that's there, thinking, say yes to the opportunities. I think that's been mentioned a few times today. Push those boundaries. Yeah, those challenges are there, and they were definitely there. And I thought, right, okay, I'm going to go for it. Let's just see. Plus, the other factor was, if I didn't get this money, obviously we're all at universities. We know how it works. You've got to bring in the grants to obviously secure your contracts. So we went for it. And I was blessed and I got the grant. So £1.5 million, and I was chief investigator of this large study. And for me, that was the biggest turning point in my career, because now I had an opportunity to really make a difference. I have a co-chief investigator, Professor Samuel Darbe, who was a clinical pain consultant based in the Northeast. But together we ran this team. So I've got 5 minutes left, so I'm going to zoom through now the other slides. So why was this funded? So painkillers, if you've heard in the news over the last 10 years or so, the US declared a national emergency. The UK was on its way to having a massive opioid epidemic. You go to your doctor's, prescription is given, a painkiller is there. So research now shows that long-term use of opioid use is not good for chronic pain. For some people, small amounts might be okay, but it's not. It adds to more side effects and more complications. These are the kind of strong painkillers we are talking about. So these are opioids. So you might hear things like tramadol or fentanyl, and what they do is they bind to the opioid receptors in our brains, in our spinal cords, and other parts of our body, and they block the pain signals. But unfortunately, short term, okay. But long term, what happens is they are going to add to higher increase of death rates because of higher risk of dependency, overdose, respiratory failure, severe constipation. You are talking side effect after side effect after side effect. And opioid hyperalgesia, which means the more painkillers you take, the more sensitive you become to pain. So all of a sudden, we are now faced by this problem of people are on these painkillers, they are having pain, and now we need to take them off. But coming off them and not offering them anything, what's that going to achieve? You know, people have fear of coming off the pain medication. So I'm not going to go into this slide too much. The trial is finished. It took 10 years. It got published 2 years ago in JAMA. Another highlight of my career. So grateful. That's one of the top leading medical journals. Never in my life did I think, when I started my academic career, that I would be publishing in these sort of journals. And this is impact for us. Yeah, so what we found is our program worked. I'm not going to go into the study, but if anyone's interested, I'm more than happy to kind of share that. But basically, the study was a positive study. It's currently the first of its kind, 608 people, the largest globally. So not only have we got a clinical trial that we have delivered, but we're leading currently in the world as well. So now it is a matter of getting out there, having that visibility. And my gosh, it is scary because you have to be the face of this study. You have to have that motivation there. I think it got over 160 news outlets. It's been in the media, which is brilliant. One thing I just want to really raise is that in our clinical trials, so 608 people, 97% of my population in that trial were white. We screened 2 million people and invitations went out. So now we have a big drive in the CTU. We need to do better in terms of our recruitment to our clinical trials. And that means not just translating our interventions into different languages, getting out there, working, going into the Gurdwara, doing community work to say, this is research, I need my results to be generalizable. We need to work with people in order to be able to recruit them in, educate what trials are, educate what research is. So that is the next drive now. And the National Institute of Health is also very, very keen on this. So I am really open to any suggestions, any collaboration to really push that forward. Last few slides. So authenticity and leadership, going back to that. What does that mean to me? So I think for me, it's a reflection of self-awareness, reflect on my values as a leader and my cultural identity. I don't want to shy away from our cultural identity. I think we should be proud of it. I think we should be out there, showing our visibility, having to, that's an awful picture, but you know, unfortunately, when I started the academic career, never did I think I would be on the TV like BBC Breakfast News and talking about results, but we do, and that's our responsibility, to get out there, to be able to show and have impact of our results. And saying yes to opportunities again, you know, during COVID, we had a lot of opportunities to work with sort of the South Asian different initiatives that were going around, and really, again, just trying to do things beyond academia as well, because research is great, but we have the opportunity to push the boundaries a bit. So I would definitely say yes to the opportunities. I'm not going to go through this slide, but I really am keen on mentorship, and I am trying my best as well, so I need to learn as I do. So learn what mentoring means and help the early career researchers, you know, to come on board as well. So just saying that, go beyond academia. So just last few slides. This is what it looks like on the outside as you go up the ladder. Start off here, go up to I'm associate director now in the unit, brilliant. But the reality is this, 100% that is it. I mean, I got lost in there so many different times. Had my family to ground me, had lots of people to kind of guide me, but that's okay. That's absolutely fine. So in terms of my values, keep challenging myself. I encourage everyone else here, keep challenging each other. This is great because we inspire each other. I've definitely been inspired today. Leadership, be part of the changing system. That's what we have to always think. We're not going to stand still here. We need to continuously change and make a difference. You know, that's the purpose. That's why we do what we do. Do the research and get it out there to the public, into patients. Finally, I want to dedicate this presentation to my dad, because I was meant to be here last year, and 2 days before the conference he collapsed at home, completely out of the blue. And I remember calling Harbinder from the hospital thinking, I don't know what's going on, Harbinder, I'm not going to be able to present. And he was great, and he said, listen, you don't worry, you do what you need to do. Unfortunately, Dad was diagnosed with a grade 4 glioblastoma, and his prognosis was literally 3 months. So, you know, I completely stepped away from academia and everything for that much time. But, you know, it's because of him I stand here today. And I really want to carry on everything that he's taught me, his values. And I'm so grateful to actually be able to make it today as well. He was very aware that I was going to do this conference last year. So I really, really do appreciate that. But like I said, I feel inspired.
Thank you, Harbinder, and that was a lovely presentation, and I'm sure your dad will be very proud of what you've done today. I think from an observation from a pharmacy perspective, I think it's the terminology we sometimes use about opioid medicine. We call it painkillers, don't we?
Yeah, strong painkillers.
What we think is that we have this medicine and it's going to kill, numb all the pain. And I think the reality is, and I'm sure you'll be best placed to explain this further, but opioids only really take around about 20% of the pain away. It takes a surface level of the pain away, and it just you learn to live with it, but you have to then start adapting your lifestyle and knowing not to overexert yourself and be reliant on these painkillers. But you do some wonderful work on opioids, and keep up all of that. And it was lovely to see and hear about your leadership journey.
Thanks.
We are behind schedule, but
I'm around,
is
so
anybody wanting to have any comments or a brief question?
You can grab me
while Harbinder's
here. But I'm here, so if you want to grab me during the lunch, I'm happy with that as well. Whatever's easier.
Yeah, the food is ready.
Yes.
And absolutely, we'd love to have a chat.
Yeah.